don't have no money. Well, guess what? People who make over $500,000 got money. Let's tax them a little bit and pay for it. Sound good to you? Sound good to me. That's how the vote went. Right? We need more politicians like that. But that's how the vote went basically in New York City, right? Okay, so that's how the vote went. But how did the legislation go when it came time to legislate it? Well, guess what? I was a part of a delegation that took around 3,000 people up to our state capitol. Because the way it works, I didn't know about this before, but basically, when you actually have a city government that's willing to do all this stuff, then they got to get it past Albany. So they got to get it past the state capitol. Before, we didn't have a city government that wanted to do this, so we didn't even know. But so when we got up there, guess what? 3,000 people sounds pretty good, right? Not bad. Well, the charter schools emptied out. They closed down school for the day. 15,000 charter supporters. I mean, a lot of them didn't even know what they were there for. They was basically, there was a bus and, you know, they had a lunch and there was a field trip to Albany. But that's what the hedge funds mobilized. Guess what? We got our universal pre-K, but they didn't pay for it. We paying for it. You know? We need to build this coalition in real ways on the ground. It's not enough for us to just have somebody who sounds, you know, who's progressive, who knows us, who rubs elbows with us. When they go up to Albany with one of these good ideas, the projects need to empty out. The public schools need to empty out. The low-income communities need to empty out. The unions need to empty, you know, we need, the 99% needs to be there. If you're going to fight for the 99%, if you're going to legislate for the 99%, we need to push them and make it happen. Because guess what? It's going to be millions of dollars from the hedge funds on the other side. It better be millions of us with our politicians. So, I think many people voted when they voted. When I talk about the need to really concretize this coalition, I think a lot of people that voted, even for Obama, you know, in the big presidential elections, I think part of what they were voting for, in addition to rejecting the racism and so on, was to make the banks pay. Was to make the people who created this financial crisis pay for it. You know, the other option was clear. If it wasn't clear with Bush and them, it was definitely clear with Romney. You know? Okay? And in the face of that huge campaign, they said what they wanted. You know? But we need to organize this coalition to make it happen, and that's what this Communist Party is about doing. So, what does that mean? And I say that because we're talking about class-conscious leadership. Because it takes more, it's going to take more than a good heart. It's also going to take class-conscious leadership. Because in New York City, we won the election, but we didn't win power. Wall Street is still in power there. You know? The hedge funds, the landlords, you know, the real estate moguls, the developers, that's who runs New York. And if we're going to change that, we're going to need to mobilize by the millions. That's the only way to change that relationship right there, right? And that doesn't happen out of thin air. When we talk about class-conscious leadership, we're talking about people understanding that power lies with the working people. That's where this wealth comes from, and when we organize, right, these working people, that we command power. When the working communities and their allies organize, that's how we have power. So, seeing that the CEO of McDonald's says now that he supports raising the minimum wage, right? He says what he says. He says he supports it. We need this coalition on the ground to take him up on that. How dare he get on national TV talking about he's for a $15 minimum wage and he's not paying that. He's still paying my friends $8 an hour. Come on. Let's go. Let's take him up. Let's go. You know, Costco right now, Costco, the guy who owns that, he's a capitalist too. He pays people a living wage. He allows them to have a union. And he still flips a profit. I'm sure he has a jet or two. You know? Right? Because basically what happened is, there's an idea that, I mean, you know, the market can pull wages down. Everybody understands that these market pressures and competition can pull wages down. But what the point is that we need to instill in the people of this country, in the 99%, is that what class struggle is when we organize. And that's how we push wages up. There's two sides of the dynamic. Just as the market forces can push them down, organization, unionization can push wages up, right? And even we can also create right. So basically, part of the issue though is that in a lot of the industries where the low wage workers are centered, they're industries that are very competitive, right? So part of what we're talking about is working to change the culture, right? So that this competition isn't based on how low you can pay your worker. You know, they'll still have other ways to compete. Like, you know, maybe one can be a better advertiser, one can, you know, use this thing that's cheaper to advertise, you know, but not on how cheap you can, you know, how little you can pay your workers or how little sick days you can give them and so on and so forth, you know. That organization can take that out of the equation, at least temporarily. So, with all this in mind, well, you already said that. I mean, and the point is that not all low-wage workers work for the McDonald's and the Walmarts and so on, right? That there's a lot of mom and pop shops and so on have pay low. But the fact is that millions of people who are low-wage earners work for billionaires, right? And so it's to the point that over $7 billion of taxpayers, and we know the taxes are paid by workers, right, go towards subsidizing poverty wages, right? So in communities where the safety net is deteriorating, where there's not community centers, where there's not parks, so on, $7 billion that could be going to that is going towards paying the wages for these billionaire companies, Labor and community solidarity is necessary. Is necessary. This is not just the fight of those workers. This is the fight of our communities. There are $7 billion. $7 billion that could be improving the public life, but it's being stolen by these poverty pimps, basically. And McDonald's and Walmart and so on, right? So these electoral defeats against the ultra-right, they need to be extended on the ground. It's not just enough for us to say like, oh, people support there being a $15 minimum wage, or people are against, the McDonald's and